There is no arguing the shooter genre is one of the most popular genres in gaming today, with juggernauts like Fortnite, Apex Legends, and Call of Duty. But the reality is a lot of our current popular first and third person shooters took inspiration from older games, franchises that have set a standard with innovation and quality many years ago. I'm Tavius with Gamer Goons, and today we're counting down the top 5 most influential and innovative shooter franchises that have been dead for years and deserve a revival. Number 5. Resistance.
Darkness is coming. If I close my eyes, I can almost feel it.
Resistance was a trilogy of first-person shooters for the PlayStation systems that ran from 2006 to 2011. Created and developed by Insomniac Games, studio previously known for the Ratchet & Clank series. Resistance takes you back to the 1950s, to a version of Earth that was invaded and conquered by an alien species known as the Chimera, who are capturing and transforming humans into monsters to create an army. You, of course, are a member of the Resistance and have access to a mix of cool weapons from the 50s, as well as futuristic alien-looking ones. The first game in 2006, titled Resistance: Fall of Man, had us fighting aliens in the UK, while the sequel Resistance 2 takes place 3 years later as the Chimera invade North America. Resistance 3 was released in 2011 and changed the formula for the franchise to less of a military game and more of a post-apocalyptic game, partially due to the similarities with the Call of Duty franchise. The game was well received by the fans, still sitting at 83 on Metacritic, but the sales didn't reach PlayStation goals and was ultimately considered a failure. Call of Duty was taking up most of the shooter market at this point with Modern Warfare 3, and it was hard to compete. There was a couple smaller Resistance games released for the PSP and the PS Vita in 2009 and 2012 by other Sony studios since Insomniac had moved on from the IP. But in 2021, a revival was pitched over to Sony from inside Insomniac Games. Pitch that was declined because of the oversaturation on post-apocalyptic games on the market at the time. Games like The Last of Us and Days Gone. Honestly, it is almost impossible to imagine Insomniac going back to the Resistance IP, especially with the success the Spider-Man games are bringing to the PlayStation. But Resistance was truly something special that I believe could have a place in today's gaming market for the new generation of gamers. Number 4. Timesplitters.
Out of the darkness they came with a hateful will to destroy humanity.
Timesplitters is a trilogy of first-person shooters developed by a studio called Free Radical Design, who is now owned by the Embracer Group. I know, that doesn't sound good for the franchise. This game was considered a spiritual successor to GoldenEye and Perfect Dark on the Nintendo 64 because of the similarity of gameplay and design, but it had something special: time traveling. Each mission had you time travel into a different era to look for time crystals that Timesplitter creatures were using to travel through time and disrupt human history. Timesplitters 2 then released in October of 2002 on PS2, Xbox, and GameCube, and it's considered the best from the franchise, still sitting at a 90 Metacritic score, with more focus on the story and multiplayer with lots of funny characters to choose from and different maps and modes to play. Almost 3 years later, Timesplitters 3 Future Perfect released in March of 2005 to a pretty positive reception from the fans and dove deeper on the story of the Timesplitters. This one was the first one to feature online multiplayer with Xbox Live and PlayStation 2. By 2007, and after releasing a game called Haze in 2008, not very well received by the way, planning and development of Timesplitters 4 had begun at Free Radical Design Studios, but the project was put on hold in 2009 when the studio was purchased by Crytek. Crytek saw the reception of Haze and decided to put any work on Timesplitters 4 on hold. It sat on hold for 10 years. In 2018, THQ Nordic acquired the rights to the Timesplitters IP with the intention to use it, and published together with Deep Silver Publishing Company. Then in 2021, Deep Silver reformed Free Radical Designs as a new Deep Silver studio to work on the next Timesplitters. But things got ugly in 2023 when Embracer Group, who is the parent company of all these studios, decided to completely close Free Radical Design Studios, leaving the future of the IP uncertain. It is pretty clear that there is so much love for this franchise from the fans and developers themselves that a revival for this generation of gamers is well deserved, but sadly being up to the guys in suits at Embracer Group doesn't give me much hope for it anytime soon. Our best bet is for them to sell the IP rights out to other developers so we can get a proper sequel to Timesplitters. Number 3. Killzone.
Defenders of the Helghast dream, now is our time!
Killzone is a series of first-person shooters for the PlayStation consoles created and developed by Guerrilla Games from 2004 to 2013, before the studio moved on to create a personal favorite, Horizon Zero Dawn, for the PS4. The first game, released on PS2 in 2004, was very well received, with people calling it the Halo killer back in the day because of its gorgeous visuals and soundtrack on top of the futuristic setting. The success of Killzone on PS2 and Sony's ambition for the mobile market with the recent launch of the PSP in 2005 made Guerrilla Games release Killzone Liberation for PSP in 2006, which reviewed pretty well, but being tied to a handheld new console kept it from reaching the audience it deserved. Killzone 2 came around in 2009 for the PS3, 3 years after Liberation, and instantly became a fan favorite of the franchise, holding a 91 Metacritic score and being praised for its soundtrack, multiplayer modes, visuals, and action, showing that Guerrilla Games might take their time with their games to deliver a polished quality product, which can be seen today with the level of quality delivered in Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West. Killzone 3 then released in 2011 for the PS3 with the addition of PlayStation Move capabilities. Remember those weird microphones / remote looking controllers that did motion controls? Anyway, the game still did amazingly well. Then in 2013, 2 Killzone games were released. One for the PS Vita called Killzone Mercenary, which was developed by a second Guerrilla studio Sony had founded in England, a studio that actually closed in 2017. Meanwhile, the main studio cooked up Killzone Shadowfall for the launch of the PS4 console. Shadowfall is considered one of the weakest entries to the series. While still holding up on the visuals and gameplay, the story was not a favorite among the fans of the franchise, giving its scores in the mixed to positive 70s in Metacritic. This series really set a new standard on what a futuristic action first-person shooter could be at the time, being called a Halo killer by many PlayStation fans, so if Sony wanted to bring back the Killzone name and put a number 4 on it, especially now that Microsoft owns Call of Duty, having a great shooter exclusive to PlayStation would make many fans happy and many new gamers fall in love with these games. Number 2, Half-Life.
Gordon, you're alive! Thank God! Get to the surface as soon as you can and let someone know we're stranded down here.
Half-Life is a series of first-person shooters developed by Valve from 1998 to 2007 for PC. The first game stayed exclusive to PC from 98 until 2001 when it was finally ported to PS2. Half-Life formula combines puzzle elements with exploration and the first-person shooter combat to perfection. So much that it earned many awards for Best PC Game in different categories and sits at a 96 Metacritic score. To this day, Half-Life is considered one of the most influential first-person shooters and one of the greatest video games ever made. Half-Life 2 did not release until 2004, but between 1998 and 2004, the first Half-Life received 3 expansions: Opposing Force in 1999, Blue Shift in June of 2001, and Decay in November of the same year, all of them receiving great reviews by critics and fans. Half-Life 2 had a 6-year development cycle, faced some delays and unfortunate leaks prior to the release of the game, but still nothing could stop the massive success. This game also earned a 96 Metacritic score and was planned to receive 3 episodic expansions, but it only received 2, with the third one being cancelled. Episode 1 released in June 2006 and Episode 2 in 2007 alongside the Orange Box, which was a bundle of Half-Life 2 and episodes and other standalone games in the Half-Life universe. The massive success of Half-Life and the fanbase passion for the series was not stopping, and games like Portal and Counter-Strike were born in the Half-Life universe. These games actually began as mods for Half-Life, Portal being a puzzle game and Half-Life Counter-Strike the multiplayer part. Later on, they got full support from Valve and launched them as standalone games by acquiring the rights to the fan-made mods with excellent reception. The Half-Life name stopped being used for many years, with now Portal, Portal 2, as well as Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike 2 being so successful to this day. Until 2020, when Half-Life Alyx released as a VR title for Windows. Although this game was also very well received, being a VR game kept it from reaching a broader audience. So who knows, maybe someday we can get a proper Half-Life 3 to come show all these newer studios how Valve makes games. If you enjoyed this video and want to stay on top of the need to knows on the gaming industry, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get all of our up-to-date gaming videos. Number 1. Titanfall. pilots and giant robots. This first-person shooter was created by Respawn Entertainment, makers of Apex Legends and the Star Wars games Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor. Titanfall began production in 2011 after two Call of Duty developers, Jason West and Vince Zampella, got fired from the studio Infinity Ward by Activision in 2010 and started their own studio called Respawn. They had created and worked on Call of Duty for 7 years, so starting a new independent studio allowed them to let loose with creativity, and Titanfall was born. A massive futuristic first-person shooter with minimal campaign but heavy focus on online multiplayer. In 2013, with the game close to being finished and Microsoft just about to launch the Xbox One, West leaves the studio. Deals happened and the first Titanfall became an Xbox One exclusive for 1 year according to Respawn. It wasn't until after the game had launched that they found out EA, who was the publisher of the game, had sold the rights to Xbox to keep the Titanfall game exclusive forever. So development for Titanfall 2 began. Titanfall 2 had a development cycle of 2 years from 2014 to 2016, the year it released. It expanded on the multiplayer the fans loved on the first game, but went heavier on a single-player campaign that focused on the relationship between the pilot and his Titan, and what they do for each other. It was an amazing campaign in my personal opinion, with this game sitting at an 89 Metacritic score, higher than the original Titanfall at 86. Sadly, the publisher EA decided to release Titanfall 2 in the fall of 2016, sandwiched in between the release of a Call of Duty made by Infinity Ward, Vince Zampella's old studio, and a Battlefield game made by DICE and also published by EA, which ultimately hurt the sales of the game tremendously, forcing fans of the shooter genre to choose between the 3 games releasing in the same week. Sales were good but could have been great according to Respawn, especially since this release was also on PlayStation as well as Xbox. A year after the release of Titanfall 2, in November of 2017, Respawn was fully acquired by EA and development of Apex Legends in the Titanfall universe began. Now with 3 Respawn sub-studios helping maintain Apex Legends, Respawn has been working on the single-player Star Wars Jedi games, but fans of Titanfall still hold hope that Titanfall 3 will eventually be made and be as excellent as 1 and 2 are. These are some of the best shooter franchises that are no longer active and our current popular shooters have taken inspiration from. There are many more. It was a real struggle to keep this at 5, but which other shooter IPs do you think are so iconic and innovative that deserve to come back? Comment down below and let us know. Don't forget to help us with a like if you enjoyed the video and consider subscribing to not miss any of our uploads. Remember that you can vote for which videos we'll work on next through Patreon and Discord subs. Thank you to our epic support goons that keep this daily content coming. My name is Tavius with Gamer Goons and you can watch other gaming videos right here.